Week 10 of the NFL season's finished. Going to go over the Week 11 NFL Power Rankings. Before I do, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit walterfootball.com for tons of content. We have NFL picks against the spread. We just had a monster week hitting our Lions pick of the month and also the minus 20 half plus 390 alt line. We have 2026 and 2027 NFL mock drafts, fantasy ranking, weekly rankings. We have grade every signing, grade every trade. It's all free at walterfootball.com, so check it out. All right, going to start from bottom to top as usual, and should come as no surprise. The Titans are still number 32. They did not play last week, although they almost lost to the bye. That's how bad they are. They're 1-8. We'll talk about the game against Houston coming up in the picks video, which will be posted in a couple of days. I think it's a little interesting. I usually say the Titans would have no chance, but there are a couple of things in that game that kind of stand out, and maybe Tennessee could pull the upset. Even if they do, I'd still have them at the number 32, or at least I hope you guys hold me to that. I don't think I'm going to change my opinion here. Number 31. We had the New York Jets. Now, the Jets won. They beat the Browns, but they did it with special teams nonsense. They had two returns in a row. Very tilting as someone who, A, took the Browns, and B, bet the Jets under 19.5 points. Without that, they get to 17. They don't even get they get to 13. Sorry. They don't even come close to the 19.5. But of course, we've had some bad special team luck, and it's kind of crazy. We had such a great week, and that was with that Jets bad beat. I don't know if it was a bad beat, but it was somewhat bad beat. But still, you wouldn't expect two returns to go against you, let alone one. But yeah, the Jets undeserved win. What's kind of crazy here about the Jets is that they've gone against Group C through F teams. Now, it's if you guys don't know, Group A is elite, Group B is good, Group C is average, Group D is bad, Group F is the worst. So in 8 of their 9 games so far, they've faced Group C through F 8 times out of 9. That's kind of crazy if you think about it. Their only game where they played above Group C was the Bills, and we know how much of a blowout that was. So it's pretty crazy that the Jets at 2-7 have had such an easy schedule. Like, imagine if they had a difficult schedule. Number 30, we had the Redskins. So without Jaden Daniels, they look lost. Their defense sucks. The receivers are not healthy. The offensive line's not blocking. They don't really have much of a running game. Dan Quinn is clueless. His team, otherwise, his team's pretty good. They at least had Donald Trump announcing them, which again, it was funny to hear him announcing that, because he was his play-by-play calling was so bad. He's like, let's see what happens, and then they run the ball, and that's it. I was expecting more, maybe something like, their defense is so bad, it's worse than Hillary Clinton on stage, like, crooked Hillary. Like, I thought that we get something like that from him, but we didn't, unfortunately. Anyway, we go to 29. The Saints, they're 2-8. They just won a game with Tyler Shuck. Maybe they have something in Shuck. He's the 40th overall pick for a reason. But I'm willing to bet that this is kind of a fluke, because the Panthers are coming off a big win against the Packers. They were flat in that game, kind of like the Packers were against the Panthers in that previous game, or like the Falcons were against the Panthers. Sometimes these teams just no show. It's pretty wild. Like, there were many grown men would kill to be a professional football player, let alone get the insane amounts of money that these guys get, and they just no show sometimes. It's pretty wild. Number 28, the Dolphins at 3-7. I got a complaint on Twitter where some guys like, you had the Dolphins exactly where they were before the Bills win. Well, the Bills were a no-show. If the Bills tried hard in that game, they would have won. They beat Kansas City. They had already beaten Miami earlier in the year. They showed up. They thought they could just beat Miami easily, just like they did last time, and they didn't. These things happen. If the Bills played the Dolphins again, the Bills would win. There's no reason to move Miami up out of Group F. They are an awful team. Now we get to Group D, which the 27, the Raiders. You could argue that they could be in Group F without Colton Miller. I think that's certainly an argument you can make. But they've gotten back Max Crosby and and Brock Bowers recently from injury, so they're better than what they were like when they lost 31-0 to the Chiefs. So Yeah, they're pretty close to Group F. I could definitely see that argument. Number 26, the Bengals. So they just had a bye. There's news that Joe Burrow is aiming to come back on Thanksgiving, so a little earlier than anticipated. If that happens, they will vault up to Group C. They still have a horrible defense, so that I think that'll prevent them from being in Group B. But still, they'll be at least average with Joe Burrow, and they'll have a chance to potentially make the playoffs. But they're 3-6. They really need to beat the Steelers. Otherwise, they're 3-7, and they'll almost have to run the table with Burrow. And that's not even counting the Week 12 game because Thanksgiving is Week 13. Number 25, the Giants, 2-8. This is Jackson Dart, impacted. If Jackson Dart misses a game, the Giants automatically drop to Group F, which sounds like that could be the case. Jackson Dart got a concussion. The fourth time, by the way, he's been tested for a concussion, and he's only played from weeks 4 through 10. Like, imagine if he played the whole season, like how many times he'd be tested for concussions. Like, this guy's very exciting, but the way he plays, man, I don't know if he's going to be in the NFL for very long. It's pretty rough. So, with Russell Wilson, the team is going to be hot garbage. The Packers will be an auto bet if Russell Wilson starts. By the way, Brian Daboll got fired. We posted a grade on that as well on the site, so you can check that out. Elevator pitch on that. Like, I think that he did a good job with Jackson Dart, so I don't think it's an automatic A to fire him, but he's not a good in-game coach, and he's done some sketchy stuff as well. So I can understand the firing. I'm not opposed to it. Number 24, the Panthers, who they stay put too after they lost from 24. Again, I didn't really think that they would show up to this game. We bet the Saints as one of our picks from this past week. The Panthers are just not a good team. At 5-4, people thought, oh, maybe there's something. They're not. They're a bad team. They're not an awful team, but they're a bad team. It just goes to show that the Bill Parcells quote, the famous quote that he said, "You are what your record is." Now, Bill Parcells, one of the greatest coaches in the previous generation, but still, that is just an awful quote, especially for if you're handicapping NFL games. It couldn't be further from the truth. Number 23, the Browns. So they lost to the Jets, but again, there's the 2 return touchdowns. Without those, the Browns probably would have won. They have a really good defense. They could run the ball with Judkins, so they could do some stuff. They had the tight ends. But Dylan Gabriel sucks. He really sucks, man. I don't think he could be a starter in the CFL. He's garbage. And the owners want Shedeur Sanders to start. Kevin Stefanski does not. So there's an impasse there. I kind of wonder if Stefanski's going to get fired if he doesn't listen to the owners sooner or later. Like, if Dylan Gabriel has another stinker, like, he has to put Sanders in. Like, and why not? Like, see what you have in him. We have in Gabriel. He's the 3rd-string quarterback. Like, maybe Sanders could be a long-term backup. Maybe he could be a starter even. I don't think so, but you never know. Why not? Why not look at him? What else do you have to lose? Number 22, the Jaguars, who fall from 20. They lost to I enjoyed Chris Berman's General Mills, Davis Mills. Their fourth quarter was a disaster. They allowed that comeback. Jacksonville, it's kind of like the Panthers, where they're just not that good. Now, I have them in Group C. They could easily be in Group D. I can see that argument. They're just on the borderline. They don't do that many things well. Trevor Lawrence has really struggled this year. The receivers are injured. I believe their pass defense is pretty bad. Jaguars just not a good team, and people who were expecting more out of Trevor Lawrence, like me, I thought we'd see more out of him this year. Lawrence has been a disappointment. Number 21, the Cardinals at 3-6. It's kind of crazy. They're 5 plays away from being 8-1. But we saw Jacoby Brissett against the top 10 defense. It did not look pretty. Brissett's played better than Kyler Murray, but still, they need something for the long term here. Brissett's just kind of like a Band-Aid on a flesh wound of their quarterback position. They need to fix that in the offseason. Maybe draft someone. We'll see what they do. Or maybe they'll trade for someone. Number 20, we had the Falcons, who lost to the Colts in Germany. They almost won that game, so you kind of want to praise them, but at the same time, if they just hadn't shown up completely flat against both the Panthers and the Dolphins, and they'd won those games as they should have, they'd be 5-4. They'd be perfectly fine right now. They'd only be one game back of the Buccaneers, but they're 3-6, and it's because Raheem Morris sucks as a head coach. It's so often that the players are just no shows for him. They have to fire him at the end of the year. If they go back to him again, like, it's just gonna be complete failure on Arthur Blank's part. Number 19, the Texans, who won with General Mills, as we talked briefly a few seconds ago. They could go back to 500 if they beat the Titans. Unfortunately for the Texans, is a rough spot. They have to play the Bills the upcoming Thursday. So we'll see if they no show after that great comeback. It'll be interesting to see if that happens. Number 18, the Steelers, who dropped in 13, and maybe not nearly as much of a drop as we should have seen. I could potentially see them being ranked behind Houston. Now, their defense can play well at times. Their pass rush is pretty good, but their cornerback situation's just hard with all those injuries. Aaron Rodgers, he looked like 51 against the Chargers. He kept sailing passes over everyone's head. I even got a call from my mom who she watches football passively, like she's not really into it. And she's like, "What happened with Rodgers?" And well, he's 41 and he's old, and he's just not nearly what he used to be. But he had played better earlier in the year, like against the Bengals. But the Chargers had a top 10 defense, so you can understand why he would struggle there. Number 17, the Dallas Cowboys. I moved them up from Group D to Group C because of the trades they made. They got Quinn Williams, Logan Wilson. These guys will certainly help their defense. So, Dallas suddenly, they're not going to have a good defense, but it's at least going to be competent. So that's definitely a major upgrade. I don't think these upgrades were for this year necessarily. I think for next year more so. Number 16, the Bears, who are right in the middle of the pack despite being 6-3. Talk about another example of you are not what your record is. The Bears are pretty lucky to be 6-3. Like, they should have lost to the Raiders. They should have lost. They easily could have lost to the Bengals. They lost to Tyler Huntley a few weeks ago. Like, that was pretty bad. And they should have lost to the Giants. If Jackson Dart didn't get hurt, the Bears probably would have lost that game. So the 6-3 could easily be like 4-5 or 3-6 right now. I'm not overly impressed. Now, they do some stuff well. If TJ Edwards is out there, they stop the run well. They can run the ball pretty well with Ben Johnson. So seems not bad or anything. It just they're just not as good as the record says they are. Number 15, the 49ers, who they'll be able to beat the bad teams with their great coaching and McCaffrey and Kittle. Like, we saw that a couple weeks ago against the Giants. They can beat bad teams, but when they're playing against a great team like the Rams, they just don't have a chance. They have way too many injuries. It's a shame. Number 14, the Broncos, who dropped from 12 to 14. They're 8-2 somehow, but they did not look 8-2 against the Raiders. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction. 10-7 will do that. It's kind of funny that we went 10-7 to start the week and then 10-7 to finish the week, but Bo Nix was so bad. But I do think that the Broncos were looking ahead to the Chiefs game. I don't think we saw their best effort. So I don't think they're as bad as they looked, but I don't think they're as good as their 8-2 record says they are either. Number 13, the Vikings, who they actually moved up from their loss to the Ravens somehow, but that's just the Broncos dropping. But I expect the Vikings to make a run for the playoffs here. I know they're 4-5, but they have their offensive line healthy for like the first time. Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill playing. Andrew Van Ginkel's such a big difference maker on defense. The Vikings are much better than their 4-5 record says they are. Number 12, the San Angeles Chargers, who 7-3. I have them in Group C, and you might be wondering why, and it's because they don't have offensive line play. Like, Joe Alt is injured, Rashawn Slater is out, even their third string tackle or their number 3 tackle, Bobby Hart's injured. They just can't block, and in the games where Joe Alt has missed, they have not played well. They lost to the Giants. They almost lost to the Dolphins. They got blown out by the Redskins. Like, think about that. Blown out by the Redskins. They got blown out by the Colts. And then they beat the Steelers, but not convincingly so, until the fourth quarter when Pittsburgh's defense, I thought, quit after Rodgers sailed that pass over Metcalf's head in the end zone. So it's not a good Chargers team without Joe Alt. They're completely different. Number 11, we have the Buccaneers, who can't be in Group B yet because six of their wins, all 6 of their wins have come against, or 5 of their 6 wins have come against Group C teams. The one lone exception was against Seattle, but they every time they played up above their competition, they have not done well. Like they lost by double digits against the Lions. They were down way down against the Eagles until a late surge. And we'll see what happens against the Bills. I suspect we'll see something similar there. Number 10, we now go to Group B. We had the Packers moving down from 9. This is Tucker Kraft. He was sorely missed. You could tell Jordan Love not the same quarterback without him. The defense did play well, though. The defense has been under fire for not performing up to standards, but the offense looked way different without Tucker Kraft. Number 9, the Patriots, who move up from 10, so they switched with the Packers. Everyone was saying like, oh, the Patriots hadn't beaten anyone except for Buffalo. Well, now they've beaten Buffalo and Tampa, and convincingly so against Tampa. They were down 7-0. Drake May was struggling in the rain, but once that cleared up, they dominated the game. So yeah, after that first touchdown, they won. I think by their margin was plus 12. So you can see this team's for real. I wouldn't doubt them despite the fact that they had such an easy schedule. Number 8, we have the Baltimore Ravens, who like the Vikings are 4-5, and like the Vikings are much better than the record says they are. They were 1-5 when all their players are injured. Now everyone's back. If everyone stays healthy, I think they can run the table. I hope they do, because we bet they're over 11.5, and I felt tilted because of the injuries, but they have a shot. Just need 8 more wins. That'd be nice. Number 7, the Colts at 8-2. I don't know if I could put Daniel Jones in Group A. He's struggled the past 2 weeks. I know he's been great otherwise, but Jonathan Taylor is just amazing. He just willed the team to victory. He was great. Number 6, we have, and as we go into Group A, I moved Seattle into Group A after thinking about it. Now, the argument against that is that Seattle has not played anyone above Group C except for the 49ers back when the Niners were healthy in Week 1, and they lost that game. So it's fair. However, they're ranked number 1 in offense and number 1 in defense. Like that's insane. Like their offense, and I think they talked about this stat during the game against Arizona. Seattle's had more explosive plays than any team in NFL history dating back to the greatest show and turf Rams in 2001. Like that's how explosive their offense has been. And their defense has been awesome too, obviously number 1. So I can't ignore that. Now we'll see if they lose to the Rams, which they're underdogs by 2.5 points. If they lose to the Rams by 3 or more, then I think we can maybe talk about them moving back to Group B. Especially if it's like a 10-point loss. Now, if it's a close loss, maybe we can keep them here. I don't know. We'll see. I can't wait to watch that game. It should be a lot of fun. Detroit Lions, number 5. They were out for revenge against the Redskins. They got their revenge. We hit the minus 20, have plus 390, as I said. So that was pretty cool to see. It was interesting that Dan Campbell took over the offensive play calling. It looked like he really wanted to get Jameson Williams involved. So, so Detroit, still top 5 team for sure. Number 4, the Rams, who would be 8-1 if they didn't have that second half collapse against the Eagles. Still a tilting loss because we had that blocked field goal return for a touchdown. But yeah, they dominated the Niners. They're up 42-20 before they took off their foot off the gas. Just a really impressive performance there, and they've been impressive all year. Number 3, the Eagles. They won in Lambeau. It was nice. Lane Johnson got hurt. He was out for 2 quarters. We bet they're under points, 12.5, so that hit. Luckily, it didn't go to overtime. But yeah, the Eagles are still the class of the NFC. I think Eagles Rams is what we're going to see in the NFC Championship, unless Seattle is for real. Should be 2 of those 3 teams, I think, at this point. Maybe the Lions as well. Number 2, the Bills. They lost to the Dolphins, so I moved them down from 1 to 2, and I can understand the argument not to, because they just beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs, by the way, number 1, if you can figure it out. Now, I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills in the playoffs. It's kind of like why I have this order. I know the Bills just beat the Chiefs, so like why I have them behind. It's because I think that's what's going to happen. I think the Chiefs are going to win the playoffs, and I still think they're the better team. I didn't think we saw their best effort against the Bills, which is kind of weird to say, but they just didn't show everything. It was pretty apparent. Like Mahomes only ran once. Looked like they held back in the red zone. I don't think we saw the full Andy Reid package against the Bills. I think he knew that they're going to see each other in the playoffs, and I think he was hiding stuff for them. And the Bills, it was disappointing to see them lose, but not too unpredictable there, because because they were flat off the win. So those are the week 11 NFL power rankings. Check out walterfootball.com for tons of content. Please hit like and subscribe. That would really mean a lot. And I'll talk to you in the next video.